Filipa. Hello, Filipa. Guilherme, Joana, Fradique, Ana. Welcome, everyone. We are live. Vanessa, Ruchi, welcome. Welcome, everyone. So we are going to give a few seconds for everyone to join the Zoom meeting. Vanessa, Teresa, yay. Danny, if you'd like to start.
Yeah, just waiting a couple minutes more to see if anyone else is joining. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Daniel Santos. I'm the co-founder of Service Design Portugal, and it's a great honor to be, this is actually a premiere for me. It's a debut. I never hosted, I never facilitated a panel online. So bear with me if I make something that is a bit rookie or unexperienced. So I'm sharing this experience with you. As I was saying, it's a great honor to be here. Thank you, Fernando and Startup Portugal and Lovagan for the invitation. And it's also a privilege to have such a great panel of experts. We had a last minute setback with Carlos, who daughter of 11 months entered the hospital yesterday at 1 a.m. Well, nowadays, anything related with fever, it's pretty scary. So hang on, Carlos, all the best for your daughter. It's a shame you cannot be with us. But we have same level replacer, Sofia Pérez, also from Service Design Portugal. And Marta Ferreira is also joining us. And Diogo, Felisberto. And probably we'll start, I'm a bit informal and casual, so I just think it's better to hear the people introducing themselves briefly, so we get to know a little bit more of their background and why they joined today and what is their expectation for today's panel. So probably Marta, can you start?
Yeah, sure. Yourself? Of course. It's a great pleasure to be here today with everyone, and thanks for everyone that's watching this live and everyone that's joining us on this panel, and obviously for you guys for organizing it and inviting us. So as Danielle said, my name is Marta Ferreira. I'm the partner and director of strategy of a firm called Rival Strategy based in London. And the work we do at Rival is mainly focused on bridging the gap between the strategic imagination of organizations and operations and logistics and how they implement and organize that imagination. The type of clients that we work with really range from intergovernment organizations to startups to cultural institutions, and we're also quite involved in different educational and academic venues. So namely, right now, I still teach at the Royal College of Art within the service design department and course, and we occasionally also teach in a few other institutions like the Strelka Institute of Media and Technology, and also within different courses at the Royal College of Art. I think that gives you a very brief introduction of who I am, and then hopefully during the panel we'll get to know a bit more about each one of us.
Yeah, it's quite impressive, Marta. Thank you so much. Probably Sofia, can go next.
So hi everyone, I'm in the place of Carlos. I hope will be so good giving some perspectives as Carlos will be. So I'm co-founder with Daniel of the Service Design Portugal community, and I work in the public sector as a service designer and head for innovation in the city of Porto. So yeah, I'm very excited for this conversation. I think we'll be reaching a lot of hot topics and interesting topics for startup worlds and companies, organizations in general. So I'm very glad to be here with you.
All right, thank you, Sofia. And last but not least, Diogo, can you let us know a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure, Daniel. So first of all, thank you also for inviting us for this panel, which is very interesting, and I hope we can also hear lots of questions from everyone that's attending this live. So my name is Diogo Felisberto. I was graduated in industrial engineering and management in University of Porto, and since I started working 11 years ago, so I help companies to improve their processes, their operations, and their customer experience. So improving for the better. That's the main goal of Kaizen Institute, the Japanese consulting company where I work. And basically, I started in Porto. Then I moved to Lisbon for a while. Then I lived in Middle East for 1 year. Then I went to Australia. So I was living in Melbourne for 2 years. After Melbourne, I went to Singapore, and actually I was in Singapore till end of February. And with all this not so good situation, I decided to come back to Portugal for a while, and so I'm now back in Portugal. So my expectation for this live is basically to first being able to share some insights from the experience that we have from helping many customers all around the world, also with service design tools. And second, I hope to hear from you, which are the major concerns and questions that you have about this topic, that is especially, I think, trendy at this stage due to all the situation that we are going through. So thank you again for the invitation, and hope that it will be a good session for everyone.
All right, brilliant. Thank you, the three of you. Just in short, I'm Daniel. I'm co-founded together with Sofia, Service Design Portugal, roughly 3 years ago. And just to leave you a brief note, you can access online and see in more detail what is the proposition of this community. But we see ourselves, a community, as a platform for many different purposes and actions, and also places. A community that works as a platform is a community that works as an amplifier. It amplifies whatever the community members and the partners and the people that come along into this, and also sometimes amplifies good things, sometimes it amplifies not so good things, but comes with the job. A community is a kind of a organic creature that no one owns and no one leads, at least for a long period of time. It's a role that should be rotating, and we aim at fostering relationships between all stakeholders, experienced senior stakeholders, our aspiring service designers or designers or other type of practitioners and experts that move within this field of human-centered service, or we just nowadays think as more of a society-centered services, worldwide-centered services, because everything is interconnected. We have 5 axes of action, let's put it this way. There are people that join the community because they share a common interest, a common purpose, and they have this objective, and they want to use the community as a leverage to attain that objective, or they want to serve the community attaining a certain objective. A community is all, one of the definitions you can use for community is a group of people. So there is this human connection of people coming together into the community, and some of the members of or people that follow service design in Portugal are here just because of other people that are also here with whom they learn or they share experience or they go along. A community is also a place of practice, and even more being a community about design, and design like just like doctor medicine. It's a practice. It's a profession of practice. So and I put in myself on the stake, for instance, practicing with you by the very first time my skills of facilitating online panel. It's also, community is also about space, and here space is not only the physical dimension of space, but the places where we are brought together, being them digital or face-to-face. There is this recollection of knowledge and memories that are created and tied up around the space where things happen. So we have this perception of being a digital mainly community, but we have through our partnerships I've been doing a lot of effort of doing things that also happen in the real world, and there is progress. And progress is not in the traditional OKR, KPI kind of measuring progress. Is the progress of building an identity by always doing this comparison of who are us, or who am I in the present and who I was. So a community has to make that exercise, has to be a living, organic being that can change and transform through time, and being able to, through reflection, through open leadership, making that kind of progress. So this in short is Service Design Portugal, and just some numbers. In our network, we have more than 70 companies and professionals. Nowadays, we are around 700 something members. Throughout these 3 years, we have promoted and organized and facilitated more than 20 events, and we built 10 partnerships. And by these partnerships, one of the partnerships, the most recent, is this one with Lion and Startup Portugal. But for instance, we are also building a partnership with Universidade Católica Portuguesa to make the first post-graduation course in service design and innovation in Portugal, at least the long-term course. Also with our twins from Service Design Network, who we really appreciate what they are doing. We have been involved more directly last year. This year we decided to open way to different practitioners, but we are always enthusiasts of their offer. The people from the design research community, so many others, and maybe one of you that is listening and has a proposition that thinks that in a win-win kind of solution. Obviously, we are volunteers and we work in our spare time. That's from 9 to 6, usually from 9 to 8. We are extremely busy, but we do this for passion, and passion by one of the main topics, or the main topic that bring us here today, that is service design and innovation. So probably I'll stop now sharing the screen just to see our pretty faces. I think Fernando already introduced some of the housekeeping rules. If you have any question, please use the chat. The Q&A probably is not that handy. If you have any question that you would like to put to our panel speakers, please use the chat. At the end, we'll have some Q&A time, and we'll select openly the questions that are there. But we have prepared also, because this is a panel and I think it's how it works, we have prepared also some questions that we would like to invite our speakers to go through. And probably the first one, and that's why I managed by the very first time have a presentation that doesn't last 3 hours and 300 slides. The first one is the $1 million question that might be puzzling some of you. And I would like to invite Marta to answer it. Marta, what is a service at this core? We're talking about service design, but what is a service? What are we actually designing?
Yeah, so I think, to be honest, like the best way to attempt to address that question is to stay really close to the dictionary and understand that by definition, and to put things quite simply at least, a service is an act that's performed on someone else's behalf. You know, it's like we can look traditionally at professional services like legal services. You know, like it's an act that's performed on someone else's behalf. We can also look at things like Uber or whatever we want to consider a service. But I think that's the definition that's I'll stand by, really, is, yeah.
Okay, and what would you consider to be, and feel free, Sofia and Diogo, to tap in and whenever you want to give any contribution. What are the main challenges that working in services or organizations that provide services might face if they don't have the understanding of the key principles of what is designing, conceiving, maintaining, implementing a service? What are the traps that they might face?
It's a very interesting question that we could organize a 3-month course around. So I'll try to keep things succinct and also give everyone the opportunity to fill in. I think some of the traps, or perhaps let's actually focus on challenges first, because I think traps will be slightly different and will require a slightly different attention and an observation. I think in terms of understanding the challenges, obviously there's different levels of that challenge for any organization, regardless of their size and context. I think the typical first challenge for most, even if you're talking about a pure service organization, is understanding that what they are doing is delivering a service. So it's understanding their day-to-day as the provision of a service. And this is almost the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. So we can go on steps. The first one is recognizing that you have a service. The second one, I think, starts to be understanding what that actually means. So how does that provision of that service connect with the operations of their business and connects with their day-to-day role? I think for most companies that are within that space, one of the challenges, obviously, we're talking about companies, some of them that are already quite successful, right? And that has been a successful model since their incubation almost, or their inception, that I think it can take some time to understand, A, that it is a service, and then to understand what are some of the traps or some of the pitfalls that exist within the service, and how can they better understand their audience as well, that being customers or users and the people within the organization. So I think it's really, if I was to summarize, to keep things succinct, if I was to summarize one of the core challenges is, again, understanding what they're doing as a service and understanding the implications of doing so.
Because it can get really abstract. When we are in looking at more mature economies, and correct me, Diogo, if I say something that is not correct, but in more mature economies of Western societies, at least 2/3, 3/4 of the economy is based in services, but very small part of these, the organizations working in those in that ecosystem of services approaches services in end-to-end way. And speaking of that part of the organizations, I would like to poke Diogo and ask him from his point of view, how organizations are facing the business and society challenges in their multiple level of complexity and impact towards the use of innovation to service improvement. Meaning, if one, they have to like Marta saying, recognize they are providing a service like Alcoholic Anonymous, how can, after that step, after recognizing that they have a service, how can they use methodologies, different methodologies towards innovation and service improvement?
Yeah, it's also a very interesting question. So we are now living in a world of disruption. So it's sanitary disruption with COVID-19, is commodities disruption with the changes in oil prices and all the commodities usage. Is disruption, climate disruption with CO2 emissions and global warming. It's digital disruption with better, cheaper, and faster technology, and is also service disruption related to the demanding customer expectations. So I think it's a lot of disruption at the same time, and this is the situation that we are facing at this moment. And just to give you an example of this, so we are working with some of the largest retailers worldwide, and a few weeks ago I was having a conversation with a person that is managing the innovation department in one of those retailers, and the way they compare the companies, they compare themselves. We are talking about Uber, we are talking about Netflix, so we are talking about companies from completely different business activities from retail, and the question is why is this happening? And actually to understand why is this happening, we need to understand that, or their explanation for this is, although they are not competing with these companies directly, those are the companies that are shaping and changing customer perception in terms of service. So if Uber or Netflix, if they raise the bar, if they raise the service expectation for a specific customer, this customer will be, his perception will be changed forever. So it doesn't matter the kind of service that he's consuming, but his expectation will be higher than before. And as a retailer, they need to follow. They need to follow. Otherwise, they'll be disrupted from the market as well. So this is a very interesting new reality for most of the companies, and explains, in my opinion, a lot how our specifically more legacy companies dealing with innovation and the kind of players that they are competing with in terms of innovation, service design, and delighting customers. On the other side, and also answering your previous question in terms of the challenges and the traps on the service side. So we face this challenge since our day one, because when we start working with companies, the economy was a bit different. So the economy was not 80% or 75% services, it was 80% industry. And in industry is a bit different, because you have a product. If you have a product, you can see the product, or you can taste the product, you can smell the product. So it's a bit more simple to see the flow and to see the impact in the service that you can be providing. But once you are talking about services, is a completely different story. So you cannot see
exactly. You cannot store a service, right? You don't have a warehouse where you store all the services and you go there and pick them.
Some of them you can visualize parts of the service, but some of them you cannot even see the service itself. So I think this is one of the challenges, especially for people who are designing services. So you cannot see it, so it's a bit harder to even to discuss and understand how to delight the customer. And this leads me to the second topic, which is the value added. So most of the time when we are developing a service, the question number one should be, what is the value added for our customers? So how can we delight the customer? And every time we are having a difficult conversation or negotiation in terms of what should be done or not, this question helps a lot to focus on the basics. So what
you mean by customer? Let me tap on you. Who are you referring to when you say customer?
Customer is everyone that is going to consume the service. So if I'm going to subscribe,
so not the company that hired you.
No. I'm talking about the person or the entity or the company that is going to use the service itself. So as a customer, I have some expectations, and for anyone that is designing a service, understanding those expectations, that's what we call value added. Is critical to design a good service that will delight the customer. And lastly, is how to measure the success of this service, because sometimes we believe we are delighting the customer and providing a very good service, but once we start listening to the customer or measuring in any way, we realize that we don't have such a great service as we were expecting. So I think those three topics, so visual, the value added, and measurement, are three important topics and challenges for anyone that is either designing or even consuming a service.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating and really well brought. Thank you, Diogo. And there is something interesting that was across your explanation was the effort of not, although it can become a narrative meta conversation about what is the service and the intangibilities of the services, you always try to anchor it in concrete and simple terms in order to make it more sensible and comprehensive. And there is this, I think, well, I'm a moderator, I should not have an opinion, but nevertheless, I think there is one of the traps is the fascination we have for narratives and replacing narratives. And now is the narrative of service design probably 10 years ago would have been another narrative, and what you said really I can really resonate with it, because it's about being demonstrative, and it's about measuring, and it's about making it visual, and it's about identifying where is the value. And speaking about value, and because service, and we are seeing how interconnected the world is, we are feeling it in our skin. I would like to provoke Sofia with a question about if we are so interconnected, value can also be so interconnected. So how do we create not one simple value stream, but an ecosystem of value? And how can service design can help companies understand the importance of having these end-to-end, I'm going to use these words, although I think it's a big word, holistic understanding of service providing. How can really service design across an organization that provides a service can help doing this?
Yeah, so I think we have different companies that understands very good have different perspectives. They can have a perspective of product, they understand very well the product. They can have a perspective of service, they understand very well the service. In the case of public sector, they don't have the product sometimes is a form, so they understand very well the actions of the service. And well, you have some other perspectives. So I think the value here you can see in different ways, and you need to catch, and services have that capability to catch and understand from each organization, each company, what type of value they really understand, and for them, from that side, you can grow and give them a more holistic understanding of different kinds of values that you can deliver. So I'm talking about, well, we have technological value, so the products sometimes can be technical or technological or not, but you have that kind of value that you can deliver through having good platforms, good infrastructure, good data, and that can bring a lot of value into the product, and of course in the service and in the experience that you are delivering to the end users, and of course the experience that you are delivering into the people that are creating the service, delivering the service. And also you have the value of people, so understand how can we deliver intangible value to the people, and services that also gives a lot of, or concentrates a lot of time on this to understand how we can deliver value to the people that is not tangible, that is not products, that is not money is experience, is desires, is behaviors. And also in terms of strategic business goals, the sustainability and reliability of the service. So how we can deliver value, not only right now, but during the time, how we can sustain the value deliver during for the end users and also for the company. So I think when we are approaching a new organization, we need to understand what they really understand, what they are their business. Their business is product, their business is service, their business is technology, is people, is numbers. What they are, the value they really value the most, if I can say. Yeah. So from that, I think a service designer needs to catch that and give them the main plan, main vision, with of course having human-centered approach on that, and having a co-creation methodology in place to give them a more understanding of other different values that they can deliver. And that
let me interrupt you just for a second, because you use a word that is used a lot, and I'm not completely aware if the people that are seeing these are know what exactly is. Why is co-creation? What is co-creation, and why is it so important to service design?
Co-creation is gathering people. Co-creation is gathering stakeholders, gathering end users, and ideate and co-create ideas together to make ideas come to life and test with the people, involving the people. And so co-creation, in my point of view, is a relationship that we have with the people and in group. And that is difficult. That is difficult to co-create a relationship with a group of people. It's difficult to co-create something with the people, because we, as a service design, needs to have also the role of psychologists, because we really need to understand the different perspectives and also the minds of the people to really give them or take out the most value from each one.
I'm seeing Marta all agitated in her chair about the question of co-creation. Well, Diogo is like just relaxed, listening. But do I understand correctly that you want to step in and speak about co-creation, Marta?
No. Sorry, I was just like keeping me going.
Okay. Because I've been I'm fascinated about this thing of bringing different people into a room. People that come from different streams of power and decision and hierarchies, and just the thought of having them on the same room it's quite challenging for many organizations and many contexts. I don't know if you want to share some experience you have had in your professional practice about this moment of bringing different people that are not used to working together and convincing the people that are paying you the check or the people that hired you that this is a key moment. This is a moment where you bring different mental models, and why is this important for breaking through and adding value for the final service. I know if you want, Diogo, Marta, Sofia, any of you want to step in and speak about the value of co-creation and why is it a key aspect of service design?
I think like it goes back to what Sofia was saying of there's different dimensions to understanding the value, right? And I think that's actually applicable to a startup environment as well and to that context. And it's really like being able, through the lens of a service or through the lens of designing that service, being able to understand what's the business value, what's the customer value, and what's the value to the organization. I think co-creation is in a way, I mean, it's just a methodology, right? It's to be honest, like sometimes it's like the theater of designing a service, and it has gigantic value mainly because, and more typically, to be honest, within quite large organizations, people don't get to actually collaborate as much as they want, or to be in the same room, that being like a digital room, a virtual room, or a physical room. They don't get to be working on the same challenges or working on the same products as much as they actually want. So I think, to be honest, like the core value from my understanding and like from my experience of co-creation, and I didn't used to think in this way, but now I do, the core value of that co-creation is really, it's a human value of bringing better communication to the teams and enabling to build some momentum and some excitement between the teams that are being invited to be in that place together. Now, in terms of like the challenges of doing that, I mean, obviously the first challenge is like, and that's even more present within large organizations, is understanding the costs of co-creation. You know, it's like, I think we don't talk about that enough for service designers. And actually, like, there's a fantastic tool to calculate the cost of a meeting. But if we actually look at what's the average salary of everyone in our organization, for how many hours are we inviting them to be in a room to co-create, and what's the value of that meeting? And obviously, like, there's more value than just the financials. But I think we need to be slightly conscious, like, you know, what's the investment that this organization is putting into this? And from that perspective, then, is really trying to set up the right expectations. So, you know, like the value of co-creation isn't necessarily to position it as the finished output of whatever project, but really like it goes back to positioning it as bringing the organization on board, being able to create those champions, and to be honest, like being able to create ownership as well and pride within the different environments that we might be working with. And I think that's even more relevant actually within like a startup environment as well.
I think adding to that, be able to bring awareness between each other, because sometimes when we talk about large organizations, 300 people in a building that never see each other, but they work for the same goal, we yes. suspect. So the co-creation is the time where they can see each other and interact with each other and see that their work are impacting others' yep. actions of other work.
I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this like on a live stream, but I will. Like quite often, sometimes we refer to those sessions as corporate therapy, and that's what they are. But also like just taking back to like the examples, because you were asking me about it, like I remember many years ago where I was slightly more naive, I guess, and more enthusiastic within certain parts of our work. And I remember like organizing this session with a large bank, and you know, like as typical designers that we were, service designers, we're creating like co-creating the blueprint of their service and understanding like the pain points and the opportunities across the journey. And we are like a super committed, super excited like group of like, I think we are like 35 people or so. And like everyone was like super excited, geared up. And at the end of the session, I remember like this quite senior executive within the business came to me, and I've never seen someone so disappointed, because they were like, this was fantastic, but what do I do tomorrow? Because I'm only responsible for these post-its in the thousands of post-its in this grid that we've placed here. So, this was great, but what do I do tomorrow? And I think that was like always stayed with me, about understanding how do we frame these sessions in a way that, again, like that we're setting the right expectations, and that we're not only like taking excitement away from people and building excitement, that then the mechanisms aren't there to keep on building on that momentum.
It's really interesting, and you spoke about the kind of white elephant in the room, that is the cost of co-creation, and how do you prove the cost of co-creation? How do we evangelize someone about the cost of, rather than the building empathy and general awareness and corporate therapy, as you well said. But things can really get complex. And for instance, you're tapping into the startups, and many times startups are working in a startup. We are a couple of people working together in a building with dozens of more startups, and the pace of work is really fast, and probably they are really invited and provoked sometimes to work together, to use the synergies within that building, that space. Coming back to one of the principles I was mentioning in the beginning, the space where things happen. Diogo, how do you put organizations working together towards a common goal? If it's a service improvement because they are working in different parts of the services are complementary, and I'm looking from the angle of startups, but it can also be larger organizations. Why is service design also, can it be a critical tool from the co-creation angle and the bringing together different voices and different mental models? How do organizations work together for service improvement? That's my question.
Yeah, so it's also still answering the previous question. So when we start, so co-creation is a very fancy name, and usually we present. So we
not start, as fancy as holistic.
we have a meeting with let's say with the CEO from a company, and we ask him, okay, we'll need your leadership team for a co-creation session, and he's a bit like scared. Oh, you need all the leadership team? You mean all the leadership team? And we said, yes, all the leadership team, and we'll need them for the full week. And then he just fall off the chair, and he doesn't believe that we are asking the leadership team for a full week to run a co-creation session. And then the question he asks is, okay, but how much it will cost? So it's basically what Marta was mentioning before. And we don't talk about cost. We talk about the benefit that we'll get out of that week, and the benefit of having all the key stakeholders together for that week, for that session. And what actually happens during that session is two things. First, everyone starts to realize that they actually don't know the company. They thought they know the company very well, but actually they don't know the company. And second, they cannot blame the other people in the room for any solution that is not well designed, or for any issue that will come up in the future, because they are all together designing the future. So if something fails, they are all committed with that. So they cannot blame anymore the other areas. And actually, this is what you are talking about, startups, and startups have a more, let's say, friendly environment for co-creation, because there is no legacy. And legacy, I mean, in terms of systems, in terms of processes, even in terms of people paradigms that usually
culture
paradigms that usually blocks innovation. So to make this work happen, they need to break down all the silos so they can work together and coordinate the different departments. And this is pretty difficult in a legacy organization. It's much easier on a startup, because there's no legacy to be broken down. But it's also interesting to share that the first attempts of co-creation and also extending co-creation to some other stakeholders and even customers and suppliers was probably the automotive industry, because a long time ago they started to work with suppliers because they had the need to develop to streamline their processes in order to get more profit out of the business, and they had to work with suppliers to develop their processes, and usually in the automotive industry they have large dominance towards the suppliers, because usually like an automotive company they deal with many suppliers, but the suppliers deal with few customers. So it was easy for them to do that. But if we go to other industries, it's not as easy as in the automotive, because the power of the customers is not as big as in automotive. But it's still possible to do it. And an interesting example is, so I just came out from Singapore, and what they were doing is, for example, they are asking people, so citizens, to work together with them in order to develop services. So they are asking the stakeholders, who are the citizens, to design with them how should we design our process, our service for different topics that are related to the government. And this is happening, and it works, and people are happy because they are also part of the solution, and the government is happy because they are getting people involved, and the performance and the satisfaction with the process is higher. So this is pretty much.
It's again about showing the value, demonstrating the value, and anchoring decisions to the value that can be generated. And in these terms, satisfaction, using it as a value metric. I'm getting worried about time. So many questions I have here that I would like. There is one because of I'm assuming many of our audience are coming from the startup background, and we have a lot of questions coming up from the panel. But I would like at least one of you to answer. Whoever wants, probably Marta, Sofia, Diogo. What is the value that service design can bring to startups? And just probably starting by an example that you know, and then explaining why do you think it's a good example, and why does it bring value?
Yeah, so I think, to be honest, like it's quite connected with some of the things that we've already explored in terms of like understanding the value as the combination of what is customer value, which then implies like knowing who your customer is and knowing who your user is, and understanding like that ecosystem of value, the value for the organization, that being like the startup, and the value for the business as well. I think the value that can be the edge within that environment, and to be honest, like I think it can actually connect with one of the questions that we had in the Q&A in terms of evidence-driven, is multi-layeral. Once again, I think the value of service design is helping startups understand the value of what they're creating. Not only understanding the value, but understanding how to produce, how to augment that value, and how to connect within an ecosystem. So that actually like starts from some of the work we've done, for example, with a startup within real estate, and been looking at how do they actually position themselves, because like they can position themselves as a product organization, they can position themselves as a service organization, like how do they position themselves?
Sorry for stepping in, Marta. Sorry for stepping in, because some interesting provocations are showing on the chat, and people, I hear these very, very often. People that actually don't know the process, they are aware, they are well-trained professionals, and they are in a company that doesn't know where to start. So, and this is I'm going to mix Daniel Eisenberg, hi Daniel, question that he's asking you. He's saying, "Hola Malta, in your opinion, how ready are Portuguese organizations to evidence-driven and customer-oriented approach?" And this partially answers Ruth Castanheiro provocation, that was the last one, about small and medium-sized enterprises, how to get started. So, how do I, lonely ranger inside an organization, start applying service design approach?
I think just trying to quickly answer that question. So we need to start with value. So if we have a problem, that problem should be measured. And if we can measure the problem, we can apply any tool we want. And of course, service design will help us with many situations. And by solving a problem and measuring the benefits, then we'll be able to convince anyone within the organization. But the major trap that we found out in some companies, people try to use some methodologies and try to do some improvements, but if it's not connected with the right KPI, with something that matters for the company, then it's something that people will appreciate, and that's okay. They'll understand that you did a good job, but they don't look at that for the future, and so making sure that we are solving a real problem on the company, and that you can find the right measure to calculate the success of that improvement is key to convince people within the organization.
Okay, show me the money kind of approach, and follow the money kind of approach.
Adding to that, I think before selling service design to a company, and I'm talking about small, medium-sized companies, startups, well, whatever company that you are selling to, you need to sell that the research, the need for research, the need to tackle the problem, tackle the real end user that you are going to provide the service. So you need first to tackle make the company understand that yes, we need to see the service, but before that is a huge period that's time, budget, everything that you need to focus on research that is going to give you a huge support during the design of the service. And sometimes this track is the most impactful for the projects, for the company, and also to sell. Is very difficult to sell research and to give the main value for research. So if you are in the large company and you can do research by yourself out of office, perfect. Then you can add value, hide value in your company and in your work. And then when you have enough impact to show to your coworkers what you did, then you have something that you apply and you have some results. That helps a lot. And of course, from that, you are showing how service design can have the end-to-end.
Last question, because I'm conscious I cut off Marta. I'm sorry, Marta. I didn't want to cut you off moments ago. There is Telmo Alves that asked us why service design something a company should invest in. Being you the head of a small strategy consulting company and use of selling service design, how would you answer this question, Marta?
Well, I think, to be honest, I think we probably have addressed that question, even if not so directly. But I think, again, like it goes back to, I mean, maybe don't sell service design directly. You know, just sell the understanding of value, sell the research, sell the narrative, sell the connection with customers or the experience. I think, why is it something that some company should be investing in? I think now more than ever, to be quite frank, because the value of that process and the value of understanding and designing a service is going to be modular and is going to be represented within like very different sides of the organization, rather than being something that's going to be retired. And I think ultimately understanding why service design is something that a company should invest in is very much understanding the positioning and the direction and the path of that company going forward. And how will they respond to like current context or whatever the context is, that being current or past as well.
All right. There is Teresa Ferreira wrote us a really interesting text. Thank you, Teresa. It ends, she says that as a young professional coming into the job market last year, I found very hard to find service design roles in Portugal that are not UI/UX related. And she asks us, how do we see the current state of service design jobs in Portugal and in other countries? Who wants to have a go on this one?
Actually, from what I've seen in Australia and also Singapore, in terms of job openings, so it's a bit more common to see those kind of vacancies in the market comparing to Portugal. But I guess the reason is probably in Portugal, companies are still not using this name when they hire people, and probably they have people doing, let's say, working as a project manager, or the names they find for these people are different, but within their responsibility, service design is still critical, and is one of the key tools that they use for to help the company. But so I think it's more about the branding and less about the methodology itself when comparing to at least to Australia and Singapore.
Being myself the co-founder of a community called Service Design Portugal, I couldn't care less of what they call it, if they are doing the right thing. So you can see yourself also as a kind of someone acting in a guerrilla style. Let him calling whatever, but act and follow what you think is right, as being demonstrative, doing your research, showing the value, measuring the value, showing the progress. And if they call you UX UI, let it be. But you can hack the process. You can hack the process by within. You didn't need a vouch from the CEO to hack the process. You just be.
But I think like
Marta, you wanted to say something, then Sofia.
Yeah, I'll just like speak very quickly from an academic perspective, like coming in as my role as tutor and lecturer as well. I totally agree with what you said, Danielle, but I do think it's a big challenge for people that have just graduated, and like the job that you graduated from, there's no job openings. And as much as we understand that within the industry is like, oh, just go in, hack it and develop it, like that's not necessarily what someone I think wants to feel when going out. So I think what I tell people, at least like my students, for example, is like, try to understand how do you position yourself and how do you create connections with some of those companies, is understanding like, what's your core value as a service designer. And that's likely to be what the company is going to value the most anyway about any employee, which is like having a deep understanding of context and wider context, and being able to craft something quite tangible out of that understanding, and a deep curiosity to always learn more, that being through research or anything else. So it's really understanding how do you position those core skills based on the jobs that are currently opening.
Yeah,
all right.
Just to add quickly, Danielle, sometimes our job is hiding on others' type of titles. So please read very carefully the details of the job position. So because many times I see some job position with different titles, but they mean the same. So
the job description.
This company as though they have different ways how to present the job titles and the title. So if you read carefully the details, sometimes is there.
Yeah, and if I can end with an advertising note, join Slack community of Service Design Portugal. We are usually advertising jobs there. There is an open database of service design practitioners and companies that we've created, and has more than 10,000 data points nowadays. So bring aboard. We are on this together. That's why we also created a community. Thank you so much. We need to end now. Thank you so much. Diogo, Marta, Sofia, you are all rock stars. Apologies to everyone if I sucked a bit as a moderator. Give me feedback. Feedback is a gift. I will only say thank you, and see you next time. And stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you
so
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.